I think this is like the earliest we've ever gotten started. Like we usually fuck around. Hey everybody, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Welcome back to another episode of the Peasant Party podcast. It is Saturday at 11:07 a.m. Well, guess who's back in studio?
I'm back. I know it's been kind of a while. Huh?
I know,
we
we missed you.
Yeah.
People have been asking about you.
Really?
Yeah, you were missed. You were missed.
Well, I'm back to the streets. So.
Yeah. Well, I'm your host Charlotte Warren, by the way, and then remind everybody who you are.
I'm Annabelle. I'm Charlotte's sister.
What's new with
co-host
you?
sometimes. I got dumped via text yesterday.
Oh,
so.
How you feeling?
A little salty, but I'm like pretty much okay.
Yeah.
I'm pretty much okay. Yeah. Yeah. I have been so surrounded by, like, it was kind of like a little bit of like a few days coming, you know, like I knew it was coming, but I've been so surrounded by like my friends and my family and people that like love me and value me and appreciate me. My friend Ava the other night was like, dude, she talked me up and she was just like, you need to go where you are valued. And that's like stuck in my head so much. Like, go where you're valued. Don't follow somebody who's giving you crumbs of validation, you know?
Yeah. And yeah, you felt like it was coming for like a week or so on the rocks kind of thing?
Yeah, definitely. And it's like, you know, I don't know. I was kind of like, ooh, we should take a break type of thing. But like, I think there's a lot that would have to occur without me in the picture for it to ever like really work out, you know?
Yeah. And I mean, you've given it a few shots before, and I think
totally
you did what you could do.
That's the thing. Yeah. This time around, I'm like, because we had been kind of off and on, but this time around, I know for absolute certain it's not on me. It's not on me. I did my best. But so one thing that I kind of want to get like your perspective on.
Yes.
Because and maybe this is something that's more specific to the city of Austin. I think probably a lot of cities have issues with this, especially like our age demographic. But Austin it's particularly pervasive. But the cocaine culture here is I kind of like, I was not in that sphere for a long time until maybe the last like couple months, where I just started to come up more often. I started to see it much more often. More people have it, and I've never dealt with addiction. I've never experienced, you know, like I've never been addicted to anything. I frankly, like, I've partied a little, you know, but I've never let it get out of control. I've never let like a habit become a dependency, become an addiction, you know. But seeing it up close and like, man, you want to help somebody, but then it like, I feel like cocaine just like kind of erodes your personality. It erodes like your kindness and your softness, like you're fun and you're awesome and you're like sweet and loving and so happy to see you. I love you so much and blah, blah, blah. And like people think you're magnificent and social. And then the next day when you're coming down, you're like really mean. Yeah. And you call your girlfriend mid and like say mean shit and like I want to be there for somebody that I love if they're like going through something like this, but ultimately I can't get dragged down with that. I understand how fun cocaine is, but like it will eat you alive. It will destroy like your life and your personality. And now that is like a total red flag. That's a deal breaker. That's a deal breaker I didn't have before. You know, before it would be like, oh yeah, you party, whatever. Like that's fun. I like to party too. No, if there's a cocaine habit, that is a deal breaker. I don't want anything to do with it.
Wow.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. And yeah, I've seen people fuck up their life over cocaine. Like
it's
just
sucks,
the money people
dude.
have spent. Like, because I've obviously been in tech and like
the
sales crowd. It's almost like if you took Wolf of Wall Street and put it in the 2020s. This is we're in the new Roaring 20s, I guess. I mean, call it that. But like like I would see like there'd be some people where it was just a little thing they could just sneak in a corner and do a bump off a key, and then there were other people where it was just like, where is it? Like I've got $300, and it was just like they always had to run to the ATM, and like it got like it was sketchy, and like there's some people that are just like that.
And it more than that too, like it's not just like, oh, you might get fentanyl and die. It's like you might get just like a really bad batch that like fucks you up gastrointestinally. You might just get something that like fucks you up for whatever reason.
Cut it with like baby laxatives and shit.
Oh yeah, totally. Yeah, like acetone and shit, and like it makes you sick and irritable, understandably, you know. And so yeah, I think the money thing also is like, dude, it is very pervasive. I see it a lot.
Yeah.
And I feel like, at this point, after kind of, I had a brush with it, and I'm so glad it didn't get any deeper, but now I'm like, now I know, I'm staying the fuck away from that shit. I don't want it in my life at all.
Yeah. Well, that's a good choice. Yeah, I feel I feel like I used to see that shit pop up all the time, and I never see it anymore.
Yeah,
and I'm like,
that's
good
that's nice. Because you changed your crowd.
Well, I think it's just like people just grew out, like people that grew out of it. There was like, no.
You know, I was actually talking to Bailey this morning, my homegirl who was on the podcast, and we were just kind of talking about it and how like cocaine, like that habit. I don't know if it's causation versus correlation, but like the people who are like really into it and do it, like they kind of carry this really dark energy around them, like a really kind of dark cloud. It's a heavy energy. And like the people that I love and hang out with, all my coworkers and my friends, like they are like beams of light, and they don't fucking do that shit. So like I it's very obvious like who I want to spend my time with, you know.
Oh, totally.
And blow seems to be like,
you don't want to blow your money on
you don't want to blow your life and your brain. It's the most damaging drug to the human brain, more so than meth, more so than heroin. Like it will make you stupid. It will straight up make you stupid, and all you have in your life is your brain. You can't make yourself like that much smarter, but you can make yourself dumber.
Yes. And you can end up looking like Lord Voldemort.
Dude, literally. Yeah, you might be hot now. Like, you keep doing that shit. Yeah, exactly. Ugh. So, I'm sorry. Rant over. I don't want to
it's a good rant, and I think that leads into our kind of topic today. Today's the money episode. And I know you've kind of alluded to like topics adjacent to this in some other episodes. Money's a fun thing to talk about. It's it's an uncomfortable thing to talk about, and we like talking about uncomfortable things here. So that
I love controversy.
Our questions and topics are focusing on all money-related stuff. Go us.
Go us. Okay, let's hear it.
Yeah, I guess to kind of go into the episode, and I wrote up these notes. I think we were originally going to shoot this sooner, so this is a little bit less news. But there's this video, less of news than it was, but it's still popping up a lot. So there was this viral video recently. It was a clip from a podcast, and it was Sophia Franklin, formerly of the Call Her Daddy podcast. I think she's a guest on this podcast. I think it's called Aware and Aggravated with Leo Skeppy, however you pronounce it.
It was his podcast.
Okay, or he was on hers.
Yeah.
Something like that. And she basically says this quote, I'm not joking. I've asked the last 3 guys I've dated for their bank account information on the first date. I only want to date a guy who has money, and she cites herself being successful. Do you have any thoughts on that kind of quote? Because she's obviously getting a lot of flack for it. Both men and women are calling her, entitled, saying she's, focusing on the wrong things. And then, of course, there's also the debate of, should successful people be, allowed to want to date other successful people? But yeah, I would love to hear your initial thoughts on it.
Initial thoughts? Honestly, I'm a Sophia Franklin stan. I love her. I think she is hilarious, and I think I entirely believe that she has done this, you know? Like, I think totally she probably does, but I also think she's committed to the bit.
Yeah.
So I don't think she is she's not. If you listen to her podcast, she's actually super smart and like really put together and, whatever. But that being said, I wouldn't do it because I don't necessarily care about money like that. But if you have a certain lifestyle, you've only dated men who operate at your caliber, and you're kind of not really looking to downgrade at this point. I mean, shit. Let's see those numbers.
But I mean, do you because I think where the boldness comes in is like the asking for bank account information, because that's like weird, and that's why I think it's like a bit, because like if you think of like these things that people like, these very TikTok-y dating advice where it's like, go sit down on the first date and be like, what's your body count, or just like these bold questions. It's like nobody actually does that. Like that's a very and so like I hear that and I'm like, this has to be a bit. I would hope, because it's also just like, what are you gonna do? Make them get their phones out and like all of that, like their bank account information. Anybody that has actual money, they don't have it in just one account. They gotta like go call somebody. So
I mean,
So it's like it's a very
assets, but
or like it's tied up in multiple places.
Here's the thing too, though. I think someone like her, who's you know a beautiful influencer, like she is probably the type of dudes that she's dating, like
probably
men
like
in
doing
that
on
sphere.
their own anyway.
Exactly. Men, the type of men she's dating, like if she said, let me see your bank account, they would be like, let's go, babe. I would love to show you my bank account. They're psyched to show her their bank account. Like they're not complaining about that. I assure you.
Yeah.
That's like part of their selling point, I'm sure.
I feel like she does go. I feel like she does go for like that type of guy, like the guy that would be like, oh, like let me show you.
Well,
like,
let me show you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's totally fair. I mean, like, do you ever think there's like a right time to ask somebody for, I guess, lack of a better term, their bank account information or like their financial information of sorts? Like, do you think there's a right time for that? Ever?
Well, I think there is absolutely so here's the thing, because like it's not just, oh, I want to make sure you make a ton of money. It's kind of also like, do you have like a lot of debt that I don't know about? Do you have financial problems that I don't know about? Because that will affect both of us in the future.
Oh, totally.
Like I have dated, and I know people who have dated. Oh my God, my homegirl, she was engaged to this man, and didn't know, like basically until their engagement, that he was like 70 grand in debt.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh shit, we're about to fucking get married, and now I'm going to inherit that, like, and now it's part of my responsibility. Like, I think there is a time to be like, to discuss your financial stability.
Oh yeah, well yeah, absolutely. Like I think once you're like you have to have that logistical conversation. You would think, like, especially with a lot of people getting like moving in together before engagement, before marriage, that's where that like more like hardwire conversation happens. And I think like a lot of this stuff comes up anecdotally on its own too. Like you don't sit down and have this serious conversation of like, what's your bank account information? But like, you know, over dates, it's like maybe you go on a date and someone's like, oh, and your date's like, you know, I just I'm so happy I just got a bonus there, I got a raise, and like those like things come out over time, or you watch their spending habits. So I think like, yeah, this idea of you sit down and you just like disclose everything is like, yeah.
You know, it's actually funny because I tend to date people within my own industry, which like I think leads to competition. And in my last relationship, I started to feel this like competitive, like, oh yeah, I made this much money, you know, and it wasn't like a like, we're sharing this flex. It was more like, I'm flexing on you, like my success. Like your money is like some kind of ledger for like your success or your, you know, status above the other person. So I almost don't want to know, depending on who I'm dating. But if I were dating somebody who like could potentially provide for me, somebody who's like kind of a big figure, then yeah, I'm kind of interested to know.
Yeah, I mean, it's always like it's always kind of like a thing everyone's like curious about, but it's like how do you go about asking? I guess like
how do you go about asking?
I think it's kind of like you learn these things little by little over time, and then I think when things get very serious is in like you're combining stuff to move in, then you have a more serious conversation.
Right. Yeah.
In general though, like what is your kind of philosophy around dating and money? Because I mean, obviously, like what people come and say to you is like, you probably wouldn't find yourself dating a cashier who works at Burger King. Like it would be like a non-starter in some way. Like what is kind of your like philosophy or like I guess like the bar for what you're like, I hate this so much because like on all these like man on the street interviewers, it's like, how much money does a guy have to make in order for you to date him? For some reason, like six figures is this like magic number, which you can just tell how young the people having this conversation are, because they're only focusing on salaried income.
Right.
And then they also like 6 figures is like this ethereal number where they think anyone below that is like a bum, and then everybody who's like making above that is like flying in private jets. It's like they have no concept of like how much money is.
I feel like they operate or they understand the world in like total extremity, and it's
kids. That's why it's kids having this conversation. Yeah. But yeah, total tangent there. But what is kind of your philosophy around dating money? Like what would be kind of the bar for what you're willing to date?
Oh, babe, my bar is on the floor.
Yeah.
My bar is on the floor. Like I'm trying to like build my bar up because I let people pretty much walk all over me, and I will, and if I love somebody, I'm happy to like provide for them, financially support that. Like it's finances has never really like even occurred to me or stopped me or bothered me. But I think going forward now and just kind of realizing like how that begins to affect the relationship over time, you know, because like realistically going into it, I don't have no standard really. I don't ask, I don't care. But in a kind of an extended relationship, it starts to show. Not just like your financial instability and like that, but just men that I've dated will express like financial insecurity, and that starts to like really affect the relationship. Also, money management. So it's not just like, oh, how much money do you make? It's like, how much money do you hold on to? How much money can you keep? What do you invest? Like, what do you do with it? Or are you blowing it all like an idiot because you never learned financial literacy?
Yeah. I would say, someone's relationship with money is way more important to me.
Yeah,
than just
it is.
How much, like, it's like, also, it's like, because when I think of like the how much money do people make, like I'm 30 years old, so like obviously the 20-year-olds having this conversation, you know, probably haven't gotten this far where they're seeing all this stuff, but like, yeah, I don't know anybody who has a salary of over salary over 200K, and I know people that make a lot of money, and it's because like when you start making a lot of money, it's like not your salaried income. It's like if you ask somebody like how much money they made that was doing well, they would be like, I have to go back and look at a W-2. I have no idea, but this is my annual salary, and the real money is commission, it's bonuses, it's investments. They've got multiple income streams.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, like they've got that kind of shit.
Damn.
So like that. So it's like but kind of beyond that though is like where are they spending it? Are they like, you know, is it the person that is getting a big fancy apartment at the Bowie, or did they go buy a house? Like that kind of thing.
What if a man asked you on a first date, like, let me see your bank account?
I would think that they were, like, I think I would just be so outside the norm that I would think that they were a robot.
There was an ulterior motive or something.
Yeah,
like,
that.
They were going to, like, steal money from you.
Well, it would be, it would be something, like, sketchy like that. Well, because you've seen, the Tinder swindler and stuff like that.
Oh, yeah. Totally.
Yeah, like, so I think, like, yeah, and I mean, it was so funny, because, like, you know how sometimes people get those, like, do you want to be my sugar baby, like, Instagram DMs? I got one from, like, an 18-year-old kid being like, can you be my sugar mama, like, 2 years ago, and I was just like, what the fuck is this? Like, I don't know. Like, I mean, maybe, like, I've never...
He's looking.
He's
recruiting.
I mean, mad respect. I mean...
Hey, yeah. Shoot your shot. Yeah,
shoot your shot, I guess.
That's super funny.
But yeah, like... Yeah, and... Yeah, yeah, I think kind of, like, as a whole, like, everyone that's having those conversations. And, of course, like you said, like, things around, like, addiction, like, bad spending habits, debt. I've known people who have had debts. I've known people who have... you know, been kind of shady with, I've had exes that had a lot of debt that spent their money on stupid stuff.
Yes,
I've had
people that won't pay you back.
People, like, and that behavior pisses me off.
Oh, man. Oh, you know what's the worst is, like, dating somebody who I am always, I think it was just because our mom, like, she's, you know, generous, ethical, whatever. Growing up, I always, like, I pull out my wallet first. For anyone, I'm with a friend, I'm with, you know, whatever, a man, like, I try to pull out my wallet first. And there are a lot of men who are like, absolutely not, no way. Like, of course, you know. But then I've also dated men who, like, I pull out my wallet and they're like, okay, great, thanks. And in their head, it's like an equal 50-50, but like really, I'm starting to notice that I'm paying for everything. Yeah. And I'm covering everything. I dated a guy who really, really badly counted his chickens before they hatched.
Oof.
Like,
I've dated a guy like that before.
Oh, dude, why do they do that? It's like he's like, yeah, they're talking about giving me a promotion. I think I'm gonna get the promotion. I'm gonna get blah 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 blah. We've been talking about it. Buys a Mercedes-Benz, doesn't get the promotion. Like, totally, you know, like, oh, I'm totally gonna get this job. I'm gonna get this job, so I like can relax. I don't have to. I can spend money before I make it, and then I don't end up making it, and that will fuck our relationship.
Yeah. Oh, no, I totally agree with that. And, like, I think there's some guys where it's just, like, it's an accelerated version of, like, dress for the job you want, not the job you have, to the point where you're you're buying fucking Gucci loafers that you cannot actually afford.
Right.
And then it's like
for what? Like the
also
stupidest shit too.
It's also just like it's cringy too, like with the shit people. Like I don't know.
It is cringy. It's
I
totally
can spot
cringy.
a fake rich person in a second.
Yes.
Which is funny because all these people having these like money conversations on all those like crazy podcasts are, you can tell like they don't actually have any money.
Right.
No, like, and so there's this other quote too, and I know we've kind of like talked back and forth because this pisses me off so much, but like the quote where it's like, obviously Jay-Z and Beyonce are married, where if Beyonce worked at Burger King, Jay-Z would still marry her, and if Jay-Z worked at Burger King, Beyonce wouldn't even look in his direction. And like there's that quote around where it's like a man would be more willing to date the Burger King cashier than the CEO if she was beautiful and kind and nurturing.
Oh, you want to know why? You want to know why that is? Because a man would love to date somebody who like forever looks up to him and is forever indebted to him. I'm sorry, I'm not trying to like make it a gendered thing, but I literally just went through this where like I know for a fact I'm like more successful than my partner, and it's like really starting to get to him to the point that like he's so insecure he would prefer to be with somebody who wasn't bringing what I have to the table. I'm sorry, I know that sounds like so like egotistical, but I'm like it just the insecurity compounds, it builds on itself, and like yeah, a man would way rather date somebody like who's punching up.
Okay. Because like the way the reason that like whole like quote bugs me so much is like there's not a lot of CEOs married to fucking Burger King cashiers. Because if you've seen those like fresh fruit podcasts, like there was like one clip where it was like this girl, I don't know if she was in law school. She basically asked this whole crowd like, so you're suggesting I just drop out of law school? And like there's a whole live audience that's like cheering for it. Which I think is insane because, like, first off, like, my whole thought process on, like, the money thing, like, I think there is that, like, you know, men not caring about the, like, women's success, like, financial career, but I think it's more of, like, when they say that, it's more of, like, a tangible, like, looking at it, like, right in front of them, like, the title and the money. I think there's a lot of trickle-down economics, pun intended, to all of that. Okay. First off, like, literally, because if you're a Burger King cashier, you will never be in the same room as a CEO or a lawyer as equals, unless you go like chat people up at the DMV or fucking jury duty or some shit.
Right.
And people are like, well, like lawyers go, like someone tried to like fight with me on this and be like, lawyers have cashiers too. It's like, you really think the lawyer, when he's like coming back from a night at the bars in an Uber Black and he's like, oh, let's stop at the Burger King drive-thru, that like the chick in the fucking visor and her hair all gooped up, he's gonna be like, oh, want to go out? No, that's not happening. They like, yeah, it's like more about like, oh, like beauty. I don't care about how successful she is or isn't, but it's the women around them. And if you're a rich guy and you're going to the Soho House, that's where you're spending your money. You're going to nice restaurants. Like you're going to be choosing from women who are there. Who's going to be there? Women who are successful.
Yeah.
And then of course it's like, you know, people who are passionate and excited about what they do, because, you know, sometimes people are like, oh, careers, like it means you're going working like a slave. Like some people are very passionate about what they do. I think men like passion. So like I always hated that like argument. And then of course like there's the ones where like people will throw it back at women being like, well, if women are so successful, you know, like they won't be willing to date anybody who makes less money than them. Of course they're looking at it very binary, like, you know, anyone who makes a cent less than you do on salaried income only, because that's all these people think is money. You won't be willing to date them, and you're only willing to go above. So if you're a Burger King cashier, you have all these options, and if you're like a lawyer and you're making $200K, you have less options because there's fewer men making that kind of money. And I think that's like that's insane too, because it's like I said, your dating pool is not just everybody around you who is single. It's people who hang out in the same space as you do. A Burger King cashier and a lawyer are not in the same space. Lawyers are in spaces with other lawyers. If you are a successful woman, you will be surrounded by successful men. If you decide, oh yeah, I'm just going to be a hot Burger King cashier, you're going to be surrounded by Burger King cashiers. Burger King cashiers marry Burger King cashiers.
Sure.
I just went on a rant, but that whole argument pisses me off.
Yeah, it's just like the spheres that you hang out in. Yeah, unfortunately, socioeconomic, like it's to
and I
hang
sound
out with,
so
but
classist saying that. I hate how classist I sound.
But I hear it, and I think a lot of times like you choose, you know, the type of people that you're hanging out with. Like I can only really speak for like the tattooing industry, right? Like artists in my industry. There are some who make a lot of money. There are some tattoo artists who are famous, a huge deal, and then there are some who like really, really struggle to make money. And we all kind of look the same. So like, you know, just based on like what we're wearing or like how, you know, what kind of tattoo, nobody knows who's making more money and who's making no money. So like you're just kind of dating around those people. So it's a little harder to like know, you know?
Yeah.
Like the tattooer who's making a ton of money is still going to the punk bar.
Yeah.
So.
But see, that's where like my other philosophy comes in. So my philosophy around dating money, because people are like, well, you wouldn't date a guy who's only making 50K. Like, and my philosophy around that is I've never asked a guy how much money he makes. It comes up naturally in relationships, like as you get more serious. But my philosophy has always been, if he's in the same room I'm in, he is doing okay. Everywhere I go, everywhere I've been in life, like is a result of my own success. The places I go, like restaurants, the gym, concerts, like all the friend groups I hang out with. People met through work, people met through all these things. So if I've met somebody in one of these spaces, they're doing okay. I don't have to ask. Maybe they make a little bit more money than I do. Maybe they make a little less, but they're doing fine.
Yeah.
And then, of course, like, obviously, I met Buddy from a distance, but I think it was just, like, we had the same stuff in common. I'm like, okay, he does the same stuff I do. I don't have to be concerned about it. And then as our relationship's gone on, nothing has ever concerned
nothing's
me.
come up, yeah.
And so, like, that's always been my philosophy. And I think that's a healthy one, too. So this idea of, like, how much money does he make? Like, and if it's like, if you're a successful lawyer, why are you not surrounded by, like, you're, like, the person around you's probably successful.
Right.
I don't know.
Right. I mean, well, yeah, and it boils down to also, like, the type of things that you're talking about. So, like, lawyers probably want to date and talk to people who, like, kind of understand the things that they're doing and going through day in and day out. I particularly want to date an artist because I have so much, like, to talk about and learn about, and, like, you know, I want to date somebody who, like, can understand me, really.
Totally.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you're, like, looking at, you know, somebody in a totally different career field or somebody who's totally, like, then really all your... So the thing about those, like, Fresh and Fit podcasts, you know, I don't know if I'm allowed to say that, but...
Fresh fruit.
Fresh fruit.
Fruity tooties.
I feel like they operate on the only thing that a woman really like the only thing I'm interested in a woman is like how she looks and like how young she is, right? Like that's why they say that. They're like, oh yeah, a man would date like a Burger King cashier, because they're not even asking. They're going on a date with this girl and they will talk the whole time and not even ask her what she does.
They're also just a certain type of guy that's like, they live in Miami, they're in the club scene, they're also new money, and it's like, so when they're saying, oh, like, it's like the Rothschilds are not, like, they all go to the same schools. Yeah. They're not, like, picking up the barista. And it's like, there's people where it's like that kind of, like, new money YouTuber attitude where it's like, you just, I don't know. We're going to get into me sounding classist. Sorry. But,
I mean,
yeah, like, I think it's a certain type of, that's just like a certain type of guy too. Like, most men I've met want a woman they can talk to. And what relating to someone means different, something different to everyone. Some people, it's like, if you remember in The Sims, you could choose like an aspiration for your sim. Some people, it's not career. Like, for whatever reason, like, maybe it's stuff outside, like, their career. Maybe it's religion, maybe it's, you know, fitness, stuff like that. And so, like, I think people can, you know, have kind of different career levels and bond that way. But it's like, what's the common denominator where they met in the first place? Like, all that.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, and I also think about, like, a successful man, like, dating a woman who let's say is young and I mean, we use the Burger King cashier, like,
I know, we're
analogy,
picking,
which
sorry
is, like,
to everybody who works at Burger King.
Dude, I worked at Jamba Juice for a long time.
I worked at Baskin Robbins.
Yeah, like, I've done the jobs, like, I've been there, you know, whatever. But I think also the appeal of something like that is kind of like, oh, well, I'm looking to, like, settle down in my life, and honestly, what I'm kind of looking for is, like, a housewife, not like a partner that I can, you know, talk about these things with. Like, they're looking for somebody who their ultimate, like, motivation is their partner. Does that make sense? Like, I think sometimes successful men just want a woman who will, like, look up to them and worship them, pretty much, and will follow in their footsteps.
I think it depends on the man, because I think it's like, if you paint all successful men like that, like, I think, like, because, like, even if you think of, like, men who are married to attractive women, like, some people will point out, like, George Clooney's wife, Amal Clooney, and they'll be like, oh, look at, like, she's 20 years younger than him, and she's beautiful. It's like, are you guys forgetting she's, like, an extremely bright, successful lawyer? Like, people also forget that too. Like, people be like, oh, Donald Trump and Melania. We'll throw an example from another side of the aisle. And it's like, people are like, oh yeah, you know, he found her, and like, you know, he's this wealthy man. It's like, first off, like, Melania was a successful runway model. Like, she like came from Eastern Europe to America. Like, that is hard to do. Like, she was successful in her own right. Granted, her career was about beauty. It didn't require like an education the way Donald Trump's might have. But like, he didn't pluck her out of obscurity from a Burger King.
Right.
Like, she worked hard. And same too when it's like, oh yeah, like, you know, he married the young tennis instructor. It's like, if you're a tennis instructor at a nice country club, you probably played college tennis. Like, you probably have like a kinesiology degree. You probably played like, you know, semi-pro tennis. Like, you're probably doing okay. So it's like this like analogy of like, no one gets plucked from obscurity. Like, nobody does. And I think, like, I don't, like, I feel like it's also just, like, not so, like, binary of, like, housewife, 50s style housewife. Like, I just want somebody who's this. It's, like, I think, like, that's almost, like, a cartoonish thing that you see on these,
I'm
like,
coming from a sort of bitter place, too, keep
like,
in mind.
So. I don't know. Like, maybe I'm just, like, and when I talk, like, when I say, like, talk from my personal experience, like, I know what areas and what beliefs I have that are exceptions to the rules. And I wouldn't say any of these things, like, if I thought I was, like, some big exception to the rule. Like, I think of, like, all my friends, like, it's engineers, a doctor and an engineer, a traveling salesperson and another salesperson, a field marketer and an engineer. Like, it's, nobody is, like, no one went to Burger King and was like, here's my new girlfriend. And everyone's, like, within, like, 3 years of each other, like, in my whole friend group. Like, I have the biggest age gap of any of my friends.
Yeah,
and couples.
Totally.
Like,
and honestly, I've been in spheres where like I'm around people who are very wealthy, which I'm not. I'm like kind of, I don't know. I'm coming from a totally different place. But this was kind of recently. Like, I went out with a friend, a client, and like we went to the Dave Chappelle show, and I didn't realize like the people we were going with, like they're all like Fortune 100. You know, they make money, and they were all terribly sweet, but ultimately I was like, I have no idea. Like, I just feel so uncomfortable because the things that they talk about, I just can't relate to. So like, I wouldn't want to go on another date and sit quietly and like, you know, listen to them talk about this stuff. Like, I feel uncomfortable. I'd rather be with somebody that I can talk to. Like, I wouldn't want to be plucked from obscurity to be part of like a rich person's life if it like means feeling like that.
Yeah. Oh, totally. And I think I want to get to like one of the questions. Yeah, we're like 40 minutes in.
Oh my God, I can't.
It's all good. No, I'm like, I just want to make sure we got time for those. And I'll pick the ones that are probably like a better fit for everything that we're going through. But yeah. I think we'll do this one. Yeah. So short question. This person says, saw a female dating creator with a huge following on TikTok saying she lies and says she's a kindergarten teacher when she's actually an accountant as a way to seem more feminine and less intimidating to men. She does this on the dating apps, but also keeps up the lie on the date. Parentheses, she doesn't specify if and when she reveals the truth. Thoughts on this?
That's the craziest shit I ever heard.
Because I know what creator this is.
That does this?
I don't know if she really does this, but she says this. I know what video this is. It's actually like kind of old.
I have to gather my thoughts because I'm gonna start yelling. What are your thoughts? What the fuck?
Yeah. So my thoughts are just like your energy is put in the wrong place. Like, because I think like, are men intimidated by women's careers? No. I think it doesn't like matter in that way. I think like anyone who it makes when a guy says, "Oh, you're so intimidating," everyone loves like an excuse to break up that has a compliment folded in so you can get away from the person and not feel like a big asshole. Like, I think it's just one of those things where it's like, what can I do? Ooh, she has a good career. Like, I'll compliment her on the way out the door. You're too intimidating. So I don't think that's the case, but I think of course like women have believed that on the way out the door.
Yes.
But I think that's energy put in the wrong place, I would say. And then also like, I think anything where it's like you're starting off on a lie like that, like it's just sort of like, if you actually want to build a relationship, like how do you plan to reveal that? Like, I don't know.
Yeah. At what point are you trying to like work that in? Are you just intending to keep up the charade forever? Like,
it's also just too like an odd. It's an odd career to want to hide and switch it to. Like, I don't know.
Totally. And it just so utterly puts like this man's comfort over like your life. This ostensible man that you would, like, it's not even anybody in particular. You're just putting it on there so that generally you don't insult or intimidate the man that you want. But, like, if he would be intimidated by that, now you just have to, like, date him and live with him and protect, like, what?
Yeah.
That would be so incredibly unstable. Like, your ultimate goal is so desperately to, like, have a relationship or have a marriage that you are willing to, like, I don't know, effectively, like, kill this part of you, like, the best parts of you.
Yeah, like, because I think where I'm confused about it is, like, I've seen people where it's like, you know, they're hesitant to tell people they're a cop, for example, or they're like if they're in the military or something like that. Like sometimes women too, because they're like, you know, you're working around a lot of guys. So I've heard that before. Yeah. Obviously, careers where it's like, you know, you're a bottle service girl or something like that. You know, for other reasons. But like an accountant, I feel like would be like very big green flag. Okay, cool. Someone that like knows numbers. Like we go to the restaurant, and we can like chop up the bill. Like I feel like there's nothing masculine about being an accountant. I know people where it's like. They've had experiences where, like, they're like, oh, like, this lawyer I used to date was kind of bossy or something like that. So, like, people... And also just, of course, there's people where it's like, I dated a nurse, I'll never date a nurse again. But, like, it just feels like that. And then, of course, you know, you're still saying you have a job. Like, it's still, like... It's not... I think there's certain jobs where, like, people are like, oh, a fitness instructor, a model, or something like that. A kindergarten teacher is, like, not that. So I'm, like, confused by the choices,
I'm
I guess.
so flabbergasted by... lying to say you're a kindergarten teacher to appear like sweet and demure and unintimidating.
I don't know. It's also like that's a kind of an insult to kindergarten teachers.
Yeah, what the hell?
Yeah, like Nicole's a kindergarten teacher and like she's not like she's like if she's a like so I think it's a weird choice.
It is. It's so what? It's so funny. Like what type of man are you hoping to attract?
Yeah. Like,
by doing this.
I also feel like if someone tells you they're an accountant, they're just like it's like okay, cool. It's just like a big nothing burger.
Yeah, nobody
like,
cares.
Yeah, like they just want to make sure you're not like, you know, the spicy version of accountant. It was so funny. I used to think like the whole spicy accountant thing. Like I would see that on people's thing. I'm like, damn, like accountants are like they've got a lot of like I figured it was like they've got a side hustle or something because like they're money people. And then I learned they're not actually accountants.
Right.
So I learned that the hard way once. I was like, oh, that's what that means.
Yes. For listeners, a spicy accountant is like a euphemism for OnlyFans. Yeah. Right. Yeah. 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 So. I think that's funny, but
so no, I think that's a weird, I guess, choice. And yeah, no, I don't think like it's an intimidating thing. I also like, yeah, no, like
I maybe I don't know. I think everybody's raised differently. I think you and I were raised to like put academics and hard work first before anything, before any type of appearance. Like our mom was always like, she says this to me to this day. Don't play dumb. Do not play dumb. She would she beat it out of me growing up. Do not play dumb. Like if you like, you need to like try and be the leader in the room. Like, and don't be worried if somebody's intimidated by that.
Yeah, no, like
they should be.
Yeah, like, and I think there's also a difference between because like I think somehow like being successful for women like can sometimes be synonymous with being a bossy asshole. And I hate that. And, like, I hate that because, like, I think this happens because I've worked with women who have been like this where it's, like, they want to go up the ladder and it's almost, like, performative where it's, like, they're insufferable to work with. Like, I just remember there was this one girl and, like, she got a promotion over me. So, of course, I had an axe to grind against her because I'm like that. But, like, I just remember she'd be like, I don't have a TV. I just work all the time. And no one liked her. She was insufferable. And it's, like, there's some people that are, like, so performative about it where, like, there's, like, success. And sometimes, like, people who are like that the most are, like, not actually that successful. Like, the most successful people I know are like the most chill, humble people. They lead you without feeling like you're being led. But like, yeah, I mean, I'm sure like there's, you know, people that come into dates where it's like, I'm so successful, like, and they think that their success in the workplace entitles them to, you know, more. Their success in the workplace or the money they make entitles them to incentives outside of work, and it's like it doesn't work that way. So like. and of course, like, I think the people that come into dates where it's like, I'm a successful woman, and then of course, like, I think sometimes guys are like, they hear like, oh, successful woman, because like the last time they heard that it was someone performative, whereas they probably had, you know, a totally pleasant woman who was very successful in her career, but just humble about it, like, and then of course, like, they correlate successful woman with like bossy.
This is like girl boss who thinks she has to operate in the workplace the way that she thinks a man would operate, which ends
and that's
up
what's
like
so performative.
overcorrecting.
Yeah, because it's like if a man acted that way in the workplace, I wouldn't like it either. So I'm not an internalized misogynist or whatever. It's just I hate fucking annoying, insufferable people who think they're better than other people.
Yeah, it's like exaggerated masculine energy for what? Because you think that it works, because you think that it like you're better able to like lead and manage and manipulate people, and it's like that's the whole problem to begin with. You don't want that in a workplace. Yeah, the
best leaders, you don't feel like you're being led.
Exactly. Yeah. Totally, I agree with that.
Yeah, trying to think of what else, because the other questions I had written down were way too long.
Oh, really?
Or they were too tactical. Like there was one where, I guess, if I can split through it,
do it, whatever.
And this one, because you don't like landlords.
Yeah, I don't like landlords.
Oh, okay, we're gonna have a fun one with this.
And I make sweeping generalizations about that for the bit. Honestly,
it's like, for a bit.
Sorry, it's for the bit.
It's for a bit.
People will come in with logistics because I'll be like, oh, I think all landlords should drown. Like, and they're
Thank
like,
you.
But what if you have one tenant? I'm like, yes, you too, babe. Lake to the lake.
We're gonna hear from a condo owner who's alarmed by some TikTok advice. Okay. Need your take on some dating and relationship advice I've seen on TikTok. Typically comes from dating coaches directed at non-homeowners who are dating or getting serious with someone who's a homeowner. Their advice to non-homeowners is to not, under any circumstances, make financial contributions toward household expenses if they move in with a home-owning romantic partner prior to marriage. Their reasoning is that payments would contribute to the homeowner's equity in the home, which an unmarried partner does not benefit from. Some coaches clarify it's okay to split utilities down the middle, but anything else, like paying a monthly rent, they say absolutely not. The acceptable options they give to the non-homeowners are either A, insisting on a free ride until marriage, or B, demanding the homeowning partners sell their home or rent it out just to jointly rent someone else's home or apartment, resulting in contributions to a random stranger's home equity. I, 33 male, was fortunate enough to be able to purchase a condo a few years back. Due to the state of the world, many others I know are still renting, including most women I've dated or met on apps. It may sound like I'm getting way ahead of myself, but I purchased my condo with the idea that if I met a nice woman, things got serious, maybe she'd move in with me. It's not a penthouse, but it's a newer build that's nice and spacious, and monthly mortgage and other expenses is significantly less than a two-bedroom apartment. Thank you to 2020 prices and interest rates. My mom's also a fan, and I have many female neighbors, so I'd like to think a woman would enjoy living here. Of course, if she were also a homeowner or my condo didn't fit our needs for other reasons, that's a different conversation, but the idea of selling or renting my condo just to rent elsewhere simply for the sake of not building equity in a partner's home she doesn't own seems ludicrous. And while I'd be making the same payment living here solo versus with a partner, another person moving in would cause wear and tear to the house, meaning more expenses I'm on the hook for. I'm not demanding an even split on my monthly payment as rent, but how does it not make sense to ask to pay something? If I rented a bedroom to a friend, I'd charge rent, and they'd have less rights to the house than a hypothetical girlfriend would. I'm not sure if this plays any role, but a lot of this advice does come from female dating coaches directed at women. They seem to have that like feminine, masculine energy, high value views. So is this just a dumb internet double standard lunatic take that I'm overthinking? If the shoe were on the other foot, I would never expect a free ride or demand a move. Is that actually the expectation? What's normal? Most of my friends who own homes bought with a spouse or jointly with their partner if not married. So I don't know who else I would ask. Thank you. Annoyed over hypotheticals, but like to plan ahead.
Okay, here's what you do. Man has a condo. He's bought it. You move in with him. You pay rent, whatever that is. You can agree on a number. If you break up, he has to pay it all back to you. Problem solved.
That's getting a free ride. I say this as a homeowner because I've heard this stuff too, and it like enraged me because like I'm a homeowner. Not as many people like when I'd be like single. A lot of people I would date.
It's uncommon, yeah.
And like, because the whole idea is like, when you're paying a rent and it goes to their home equity that they get to keep forever, and then it's basic like you get nothing out of it if you're not married.
Yeah.
But it's like you do the same with rent if you rent an apartment, and it's just like in this case like. this idea that like you like go live somewhere else and you because when you rent when you rent a house, like you're contributing to their mortgage usually.
Yeah.
If they haven't if they don't fully own it, like if the payments aren't fully made. So it's like this idea of like just for the sake of like, you know, not contributing to someone's equity, it is pretty ludicrous. So I do agree with that. I think like you do have to kind of like treat it like you have, because I've talked about this obviously like with my own relationship. Sure. Like you put together an agreement that's kind of logistics on the back end as not sexy as it is, just to make sure that like the homeowning partner doesn't screw you over. Like you agree on an amount for rent at a fixed cost. Obviously you split your utilities, however, and then you pay that contribution to monthly rent. A lot of some couples I know that have done this, they like it was usually like relative to how much that person made and what they would be spending at another apartment. Yeah. And then they would have like an agreement where it's like like every case that I saw, there was like a second bedroom where it's like, if we break up, you get 60 days to stay in this room. It was actually kind of convenient because there was no lease.
Wow. It's like a prenup.
Yeah, it's not sexy. I'm sure,
but it's not sexy, definitely.
But all the people I know that did that are now married. And I think it like kind of opened that door for a financial conversation.
Are you, sorry, side tangent, prenup? Are you a prenup person? Or do you believe in those? Or are you like, it's too presumptuous?
I think like based on what I have in my name and you know what people, you know, like I don't think it's necessary. Like I think if I was a big TV star with a whole bunch of like businesses I owned, it's just like for the sake of that kind of thing.
Okay.
But yeah, like I don't know. Like as far as I know, it's based on.
This just has prenup energy. It's very, you know,
well, like. No, I mean, you need to like it's still like protecting yourself. I do think though, like you don't ask them if they move in, like, and the water heater breaks, you don't say split, like, you help me fix the water heater. Like it's like if you've made money from their like rent, you contribute to that, but you don't ask them to chip in for like any kind of like home improvements. But I will also call out though that like. They say like you know we don't want to do this just for the sake of like not making payments on you know your unmarried the partner you're not married to is like home like because I've heard of couples too where it's like, and it's more where you know the guy's condo is like a bachelor pad and then a woman wants like they want to move in together and she's like, I am not living here. Sometimes it's also because like you know maybe where she works it makes it a further commute or something like that, and then they do like rent out that like condo or something and then they like rent elsewhere. But it's more around like making, there's also like the concept of like making it our home and like making it comfortable for like two people versus like bachelor pad style. So I would say like you know, where does the line between like, you know, just for the sake of not contributing to the mortgage and like you know, like, you know, isn't a good fit for our needs, like begins. Like, are you going to brush off things if she's like, you know, I don't like your condo, or like this adds to my commute, like that kind of thing. But yeah, that's how I would set things up. I do think like it's definitely coming from those like high value things where it's like, yeah, you just demand a free ride. No.
Yeah, demanding the free. God, I'd never really thought about that because I've never been in that situation. Where I would need to protect myself, or you know, I would have a, well, no, that's not true. I mean, kind of. So my ex was going to like basically move across. We were long distance. He was gonna move across country and just move directly in with me before we had ever even like lived in the same place. And I remember being like even Mom, she was like, "This is moving real fast," and I was like, "I know, but whatever, it's fine." And then kind of like starting to get closer and closer to that and being like, I feel like we should make some kind of emergency plan because if shit falls through real quick, like I'm gonna need you to have like a place to go, you know? And I brought it up and I was like, you know, like we're gonna argue and fight and whatever. And he was just kind of like, I'm sorry, I just don't, I don't know what we would ever like argue about. Lo and behold, it was like totally disastrous and lots of arguments and stuff. And like, I think just planning for the worst is so hard to do. It's so like,
it's also, it's not sexy. And I think that's why you have it like before things get weird. Like, it's just like, you just have it from the start. So it's not about, you know, something someone did wrong. You set things up so it protects you, it protects them. But yeah, like, That's definitely.
I think people just think it will be by establishing that, like, it's going to be easier for them to, like, walk away from you, or, you know, like, because you've established this, like, oh, if we break up, then it means it's destined to happen, or we're waiting for it to happen, you know? So, yeah.
No, I think like there's you know, there's smart, and then there's like there's because there's also a way where it's like too you know, I feel like is too formal. Like, I think that's enough covering your bases. What I do think, okay, first off, what this will be our last question before we log off, because I think this is a fun one.
Okay.
So obviously you start dating somebody. I think kind of past 3 dates, you start to kind of, you know, not maybe want the guy to pay. Like, obviously first date, a lot of times the guy pays. Second, probably too. But once you start dating, especially when it becomes a relationship, I feel like things kind of switch off or even out.
Yeah.
What do you think, like, of these 3 options, what's the best one? Is it for couples, they go out to dinner? Is it A, splitting the bill and having the waiter take care of it? Is it B, someone pays it and the other Venmos for their part? Or just C, honor system of switching off date by date?
Honor
figuring
system.
it'll even out.
I say honor system. But like, there's a lot of times where if I felt like, basically honor system. Like, if I felt like, he's been, you know, he paid for the last one or whatever, and then he just ordered Uber Eats, I'm Venmoing him. You know, like, I'm going to do, not necessarily for dates, you know, if we go out on a nice date and he pays, I'm not going to, like, try to Venmo him later, because I feel like that's almost, like, insulting. But, yeah, if it's, like, an Uber Eats type thing, or he brings over something,
we're not talking, like, date, we're not, not date night, but, like, oh, we're going to go, like, go buy Hop Dotty and, like, get some lunch. Because I think when I've been on Venmo and I've gone, like, kind of, like, seen whatever the transactions are, and I see, like, couples just be like, pizza, like, it's like, what the fuck? I would never want to be a Venmo couple. Like, fuck that shit.
Dude, I've totally been a Venmo couple. Except it's me sending the Venmo. I never receive Venmo. It's just me sending it. Because I feel like,
I think it comes back around. I don't
like to owe somebody something.
Well,
you know?
the thing is, like, when they have the Venmo thing, or it's like you have the waiter do it, like, every, like, single time when you go somewhere, it's like you split it down the middle. Like, it almost feels like you're setting the stage for, like, you can bail at any time.
Yeah.
And, like, when it's kind of like that honor system back and forth, you're like, it'll come back around. Like, because when I've had people where they, like, try to push the Venmo-y thing, like, it's always a turn off, and it always feels like there's one foot out the door. Like, the only time we've really used Venmo is when it's, like, bigger, where it's, like, someone's, like, you know, hey, I'll get the flights, or, like, the hotel. Like, it's, like, something big like that.
Dang.
But, like, aside from that, no. Venmo,
That's so see, I don't know. I just have this, like, itching, burning feeling where I'm like, I have to send money, because I don't want to feel I don't want him to ruminate on it and be like, I really pay for everything.
So, like, when I have been in situations that have kind of ended, or, like, a few dates in where it's like I never want to see the guy again, or, like, I'm like, okay, something happened where I don't want to see them, like, I've kind of Venmo, just so there's nothing there that no one owed anybody for. Because I've had that where it's like second date and things were weird. I'm like, I'm just gonna Venmo this person for the date, so it's like there's nothing where it's like there's no axe to grind. Yeah, just like, you know what, dude did something that made you uncomfortable or something.
So, like, you'll Venmo.
I've also gotten the salty, like, request the Venmo after when you don't want the date the next.
If
date.
a man requests a Venmo from you, what do? You pay
I just pay, because I'm like, this is, I'm just like, we're already dealing with, like, a sad man who's like, like, I didn't get what I wanted. Like, for some reason, like, to me that correlates with, like, the pipeline to sad man to scary man. And, like, I'm just like, I want to, like, wash my hands clean of this person.
Oh, girl, I could talk a lot about that, but I won't, because I don't want to cause any problems. But yes, absolutely. I've
also had, like, dates at the end where I insisted that we split.
Yeah. Okay.
Like, because I'm just like, I just don't want to feel like I owe this person, like, anything, where it's like I knew him, and of course, like, I also would just, like, feel there's, like, a part of me that feels guilty, but it's usually more like, if I'm, like, sure at the end of the day, usually it's like something went wrong. If I'm sure I don't want to see them again.
That's true.
Like, I've had those, like, where it's like, you know, it was fine. I don't know, but, like, those I'm like,
and you don't want him to throw it back at you and be like, what? You're not going to talk to me even after I paid for this date?
So that's usually because it's like I would get the vibe that they would be kind of like that. So I've done that. But yeah, the Venmo couples, I'm just like, what the
Venmo couple.
Not sexy.
Yeah.
Blah.
It's funny.
Yeah. This was a fun one.
I know. The time flew by so fast.
I know, right? I think we got some good questions in and stuff like that. We covered some good topics. We had fun, and we get to shoot some fake ads now.
Yay!
Yeah, we love shooting ads.
Oh, and I'm going to have a great day, and I'm going to feel so totally fine and good about myself today.
You should. You look fantastic.
Thank
color
you
looks
so
great on you.
much. I did a
Your
fake
hair looks
tan.
great.
I'm getting more filler in my lips next week, so whatever. Fucking call me mid, bitch.
You're not mid. You're beautiful. All right, everybody. Enjoy your
Ciao.
day. Talk to you guys next time. Bye.